And we are back with another episode of the Investor Guys podcast. I'm Kevin Mills. How you doing, Bill?
I am doing good, sir. Great to see you as always.
Thank you. And I'm going to wish you a happy birthday, but I'm going to let people wonder what day we actually recorded this show on. So happy birthday to you. I know you just celebrated that.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And hey, having charisma saying happy birthday was the highlight, has been and probably will be throughout the entire birthday celebration.
Well, we'll try to make it a tradition for you.
That'd be awesome.
What he's mentioning is my daughter. My daughter's name is Charisma. She is not quite 3 years old, and she sung happy birthday to Uncle Bill for his birthday. So we have been doing last couple shows, strong markets, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the two fastest growing states in America. Florida just surpassed Texas as the fastest growing state end of last year.
We're okay with that, by the way.
And ironically, you're in Texas and I'm in Florida. So we have some unique perspectives to offer. Let's talk about first of why both those states are growing at the rates that they're growing. And let's talk about the opportunities, and let's go ahead and break it down. Now, we're going to devote an entire show to Texas. We're going to devote an entire show to Florida because the markets are that significant. And then we've got one more show that we're going to do. They're probably going to devote to a city just because the strategies in that particular city are so strong that you can hedge your other investments against them. And we'll leave that for when we do the show. We'll give you any previews on that. Let's talk about this mass exodus that's happening from other states to Florida and Texas, and not just Florida and Texas, other states as well. But those are the two fastest growing states right now.
Mostly Florida and Texas.
What's that? Mostly Florida and Texas. Correct. And the number one reason is politics. And you can blame politics for cost of living. You can blame politics for taxes. You can blame politics for a lot of different things. So when people say it's cost of living is the reason they're moving, or it is taxes is the reason they're moving, or whatever it is, it's the politics of that has caused that is causing people to exit. So the simple reason is politics. The underlying reasons are both Florida and Texas don't have a state income tax. Both Florida and Texas have very affordable real estate compared to the states where these people were leaving from. The other consideration for both of these states, primary consideration, is that both are still fairly reasonably conservative. They aren't very liberal places. They aren't known for being very liberal. They're known for being very conservative and being very proud of being conservative, for that matter.
It goes hand in hand. You're talking about lifestyle. You're talking about taxation, and so the things that we have to offer that separate us from so many states. One, no personal income tax, so that's a big deal. And obviously, if you live in California and you're paying 11.9 or whatever it happens to be now. That's a hard, definable number when you can look at it and go, okay, let's do easy math. I'm making $100,000. I'm paying $11,000 to the state of California. That $11,000 stays in my pocket if I'm living in Texas. That's a big deal. And we have so we have that. We also have cities that are very aggressive in going after new businesses moving in, the job market. So this is where, unlike when we talk about Section 8, this is the flip side of that. When you start looking at, I want to be in a market that's not necessarily that I'm looking at just because of Section 8, then you want to look at a job market. You want to look at strong job growth. And Texas has had, we've been number one for about 10 or 12 years. We were passed in job growth by South Dakota, but I live in Fort Worth, and Fort Worth is 3 or 4 times larger than the state population-wise. the state of South Dakota, which I love and admire South Dakota and their governor. But you look at that, and so we have a large population, a large state, a large amount of opportunity. And so businesses, the most recent large business that announced here was Tesla moving to Fort Worth, which we're very excited about 3,000 jobs. But it's that thing of we are a business-oriented economy. And you say, well, that's almost an oxymoron, Bill. All economies are business oriented. That is not true. A lot of states, California being primary, could care less whether you have a business there, whether you provide jobs. They want your tax dollars. They don't want to be beneficial to you for anything else. We want you here. We want you happy. Now, that's the state's view. They're going to do everything they can, both from a state and from an individual city standpoint, to offer you tax incentives as a business to come here and grow here. And we got tons of, as Kevin said, Florida's a big state. We're a gigantic state. If you ever drive, and I've made this drive once and hope never to have to make it again for any other reason. I've driven once from Dallas-Fort Worth to Los Angeles many years ago. Literally in mileage, more than half of the trip driving to California was getting out of Texas.
And I've driven literally all the way across the state of Texas multiple times. It is a big place. There was I forget what it was exactly, but the distance from Chicago to Houston is less than the distance across the state of Texas. It is a big, giant state. It is the second largest state that we have, Alaska being the largest. And a big shout out to Christine Noem, who is the governor of South Dakota. And we're going to take a break in just a second, but remind me when we get back from that break to talk about the political reasons why businesses are also moving out. Because as businesses leave, the individuals who work there and the individuals who run those businesses also leave. So we'll be right back in just a second.
Thanks, Nat.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
And we are back with the Investor Guys podcast. Now, just before we left, we were talking about the exodus that is happening, the mass exodus that's happening from other states. Now, up until recently, and I moved the light to try to get rid of this shadow, and it looks like it's even stronger now. Just before I left California, this was just before the coronavirus outbreak, and even more people have been leaving since. 1 million people a year, Bill. 1 million people a year for the last 10 years have been leaving California. And that is significant enough for Newsom to be on television two and a half weeks ago, begging people not to leave the state of California and then threatening them with the tax if they do. Uh, that's the kind of logic that has people escaping these places as much as they can. Now, California has been long repressive on business. I've had businesses that I have had to move out of state. Even when I'd stayed in California, I had to move businesses out of state because I could no longer do business in the state of California. It just didn't make financial sense. Uh, I lived in San Clemente before I left for Florida. San Clemente is a big surf area. It is known for surfing. People used to make surfboards in San Clemente. The state of California passed regulations that said that the materials that they used to make surfboards, they can no longer use in California. So that industry literally moved just south of the border. For us in San Clemente, that was a little more than an hour away, an hour and 20 minutes away. So it's safe for them to use it an hour and 20 minutes away across the border in Mexico, but it wasn't safe for them to use it in the United States where Americans could be working, making those surfboards versus, Mexicans on the other side of the border. Nothing against Mexicans. It's just they were pushing business out of
American
California.
job. Yeah.
When those people leave California, when those businesses leave California, they take with them their employees. How many employees are going to be relocating from Palo Alto to the Metroplex area when Elon Musk moves Tesla? How many people from each one of those companies are going to be leaving California, leaving that tax base behind and bringing their dollar, their purchasing power to other states like Texas, for example, where the companies are relocating to? Now, one thing, and we talked about this before we went on the air, Bill, Dallas has more corporations, more Fortune 500 headquarters than any other city in America. That makes the Dallas Metroplex one of the strongest, one of the best rental areas in the entire country. And with that lead, I'm going to hand it off to you, Bill, because you are actually right there in that Metroplex. You've been there for a while. You've got a lot of experience. I'm going to hand that off to you.
The Metroplex is like fifth, sixth largest, fourth largest, something like that city in the country. But it's not just, Dallas itself, Dallas proper is not that big, but you can't discern, just like when you're in LA and you drive, you don't notice that you're now out of LA and you're into Sherman Oaks, whatever it happens to be. If you blink, you miss the city limit sign. Dallas-Fort Worth is no different than that. We're about 40 square miles of just humanity and business, and growing like crazy, has been, will continue to be. So it is a huge, huge market. I remember one of the first cities, I mentioned this to Kevin, the very first home that I owned in Texas was in Plano. And when I saw the address, I was like, oh, it's Plano, Texas. But it's Plano, and that's now, it's just completely absorbed and landlocked into the Metroplex, and it keeps growing north. And oh gosh, I wouldn't be surprised 20, 30 years, you won't notice anything until you cross the border into Oklahoma. It'll just be city all the way. So right now you just keep going north. That's a traditional growth line for most cities north. We're growing.
It's along the I-35 corridor as well. That northern growth happens right alongside the I-35 corridor, which, for those of you who don't know, connects Mexico to Canada through the United States. It runs right through San Antonio, right through Dallas, right through Austin, right through Oklahoma City, all the way up north into.
And we have right before you if you're coming north on 35 into the Metroplex, it splits, and you've got 35W and 35E, and 35W comes over to the Fort Worth side of things and runs up to Denton, and then they rejoin again, kind of just spurs off of it. But you're so much size here. That's one of the things that helps us keep our cost of housing down. We still have room to expand. You get into Dallas, can you expand? No, it's landlocked. A lot of the communities are landlocked. But when you get over into far east Dallas, and you start getting into like Rockwall, which is on the other side of the lake, Lake Ray Hubbard, you're not landlocked any longer. When you get over into Fort Worth and you get south of Fort Worth and west of Fort Worth, not landlocked any longer. And so what happens, we just, 3-4 years ago, we had a new tollway open here in Fort Worth that runs from downtown south about 20 miles. And it opened up a huge amount of community and a huge amount of real estate development that people were hesitant to move into Burleson, Cleburne, Godley, Joshua, because it was so far away. And the only way you could get to downtown was on 35. And so 35 had really become a traffic nightmare. Then they opened up the Chisholm Trail Parkway, and wow, you can be in Joshua, which is a ways away. You can be from Joshua into downtown Fort Worth, 25 minutes without any issues at all. Well, that's a very acceptable drive. If you've lived anywhere in a major city, driving a half hour is nothing. So all of that is exploding. And that's just this one market. You look at, obviously, most everybody that's watching this is going to know the big four: Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. But we have some secondary markets that are extremely good real estate markets. The Denton area, which is north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, is the home of University of North Texas. That's a great market. Let's take a quick break here. We'll get into Denton and some of those other secondary markets as soon as we come back from break.
I was looking at that timer and I couldn't believe it was that much time already. You're on a roll.
We'll see you right after the break for more Investor Guys.
Are you dumb enough to be rich? Well, are you? Bill Barnett's critically acclaimed book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, is a personal account of Bill's own journey to becoming a real estate investor. In his book, Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich, Bill shares his experiences, insight, and advice in a well-written, easy-to-follow account that gets investors thinking and acting. Find Are You Dumb Enough to Be Rich on Amazon and other outlets, or purchase your copy directly at www.investorguyspodcast.com.
And we are back with the Investor Guys podcast, and Bill's on a roll. In fact, I lost track of time that last segment, but we were talking about the Dallas market. We're talking about Texas. Let's try and squeeze in some of the other cities in this last segment. Dallas is just without a doubt, Dallas is my favorite pick for investing in Texas, and I've been investing in Dallas for probably 25 years. My favorite pick for Texas. However,
Dallas Fort Worth.
Sorry, the Metroplex.
Shaft us.
So, the Metroplex. I got to give credit to the Metroplex. And to be honest, most of my investments are actually not in Dallas proper. It used to be when I first started, I was investing a lot in Farmers Branch. Most recently, actually, the last 10, 15 years, it's been up north. It's been Frisco, it's been Plano, it's been McKinney, it's been Little Elm. It has been destinations north of even Denton, north of the Dallas downtown area. So let's move on to some other cities. I'm going to go ahead.
So at the break, we had already mentioned Denton, which is the home of the University of North Texas. That is a great place. Typically when you're in a college town, the rental market is usually very strong, and certainly it is there. Great. Denton's growing like crazy. Nice community. Not far from the Metroplex at all. I'm on the Denton side of with Fort Worth. It is just a due north shot, and we can be up there in 40, 45 minutes if you don't get caught in any nasty traffic. But that Denton area is an area that's terrific to look at for real estate investing. Now, by the same token, if you go where Baylor is in Waco, Waco not quite as big, I don't believe, as Denton, but same kind of thing. It is a hot market. It's a very softly priced, and I don't mean soft and it's going down, it's a medium priced. It's not near as expensive as you might think it would be. So that is another great market where Baylor is in Waco.
Also, you've got the military base in Waco.
Yeah.
So you've got a huge Fort Hood is a huge military base. In fact, I think it's the largest Army base.
I think Hood is down in San Antonio area, isn't it?
What's that? Fort Hood?
Down in San Antonio?
No, Fort Hood is Waco area.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Fort Hood is the largest U.S. military base that we have.
Yeah. But moving on to San Antonio, one of the cool things about San Antonio is there are literally 3 military bases right in San Antonio. Fort Sam Houston, which is one of the oldest military bases in I think it's the first American military base in Texas. But San Antonio is a huge market. Great city, one of my favorite cities to go to, in fact. I love spending time there at the Riverwalk. Just growing exponentially, and not just north and south. It is literally growing east and west. We've got a Nissan factory on one side, and we have a Toyota factory on the other side of San Antonio. Tell us about San Antonio.
Well, and you've got University of Texas, San Antonio. The Roadrunners are there. I always love looking at both college towns and military towns. And when you look at, you've got the combo of both, you really have typically a very good rental market for single family housing, and for multifamily, you have a very good market. So San Antonio has a very different flavor to it than Austin, and they're kind of twin cities. They're 20 miles apart, maybe, and they're growing together. But Austin is the ultra liberal capital of Texas. We'd like to bottle them all up and ship them out to California. That's where most of them came from. It seems like it's just incredibly liberal in Austin. They were one of those. They're the only city in Texas that they were going to defund the police. Governor came in and said, "Oh yeah, I don't think so. If you do, you won't be able to access. You won't be able to increase any of your property taxes if you do that." And they passed that into law, and I'm like, "Oh, good. I think they ought to do more things to prevent that." But it's a pocket. It's a bastion of liberalism in the state of Texas, and most Texans don't like it. We love Austin. We hate the politics of Austin. San Antonio, much more conservative than Austin. And of course, with Austin, you have the state capital. Most all state capitals have a good rental market because it's a false economy in any capital. When I say it's a false economy, what I mean by that is that because it is the state capital, and this is any state capital, there's going to be a certain amount of business. There's going to be a certain amount of activity that goes on no matter what the economy's doing. So the economy could be terrible, but the economy for that city typically is going to be much stronger because they have all of the governmental businesses going on that have to go on whether things are good or bad outside of there. So you have kind of, as I refer to it, a false economy in those capitals, but it's a great place to invest. So in Austin, you got University of Texas, which is gigantic.
Yes.
And then you have the state capital there. So those two markets are extremely good. And then the other market that I really like, now you get into some smaller markets.
Before we jump away from Austin, we also, in addition to UT, Austin also has a very significant entertainment industry, especially music, but there's also a film industry in Austin as well. The other thing about Austin is it has a very good recreational draw to Austin. A lot of people come to Lake Travis. A lot of people go for Town Lake. A lot of people love biking around Austin. It is very scenic, very beautiful. So there are other draws to Austin as well. But let's go ahead and jump on to Houston or wherever it was you're going to go on to.
Well, I'm just going to say, hey, yeah, you got to look at Houston. because I did not want to forget El Paso, great rental market in El Paso, and then some of the smaller
Safest city in America too, by the way.
Yeah. So you start looking at East Texas, and you got Longview, which is a great market. And you start looking at some of these medium to smaller markets. There's just so much opportunity here. It is absolutely amazing. No matter what your lifestyle is, there is a part of Texas that fits that. Even if you are ultra liberal, you can move to Austin. You fit right in. They have everything crazy you can think of. If you're ultra conservative, you have a lot more options. But whatever it is, it's available for you. And so whatever your company is, if you're looking to relocate to strong economy, good job base, good worker base, well-educated, low taxation from a corporate standpoint, we do have corporate tax, but no personal income tax. That's why so many people are moving here. So that's Texas, and we'd love to have you, especially if you vote red. If you vote blue, leave all your blue ideas at the border when you check in.
We're going to go ahead and wrap up because we're at that point. But I wanted to also point out, and Bill, you know this as well, Texas has a program where if you graduate from your high school with a certain GPA, you are guaranteed admission into a Texas university, which is another draw. There's so many different draws to the state of Texas. Worth considering, we are going to be doing buyers events in 2021 that will include Texas cities. Keep an eye out for that on our website, investorguyspodcast.com. We're going to wrap up, and we look forward to seeing you on our next show where we're going to cover more strong markets, and we'll see you guys later.
And remember, the eyes of Texas are upon you.
Yes.